We've got you. Siren. A 1 point, now 2 point victory. Brilliance from the Dogs. 10-12 to 10-14.
Hello and welcome to the CREEDCAST. My name's Dave, and as always, it's our pleasure and privilege to be here with you this evening, Monday, the 11th of May, for your weekly dose of review/therapy. Indeed, as Nicole Kidman will tell you, if you ever happen to witness the iconic pre-show at an AMC cinema, somehow Heartbreak feels good in a place like this podcast. I paraphrased a little bit, but Heartbreak FC we have become over the past month. Yet another close one. 10-12-72, agonizingly close to the Doggies. 10-14-74. Hashtag do it for Dougie. But I think is what I got. I think Jamie put on Twitter on the evening. And a good evening to you, the talent of the podcast. Your pair therapist is back in session. Good evening, Jamie.
Well. Here we are again, Dave and co. Welcome back to therapy, everyone. Or as Kathy, shout out to Kathy, said, theory. I'm not sure which word she meant. I think it's therapy, but we'll go with whatever because I don't want whatever she said she doesn't want either. But here we are. We have to delve deep into the X's and O's of yet another honourable loss. Or as one of my friends told me, if it helps, it wasn't that honourable, but she was just giving me shit.
Yeah, well, that will come up in discussion, I'm sure. I mean, another shout out as we kick off into the podcast to Simon, who messages regular, and I caught up with him in the FLW game last week. He always sends through his thoughts, and we do appreciate it. He did mention last week that our Monday recording caught him off guard. We didn't get time to pop them in. So, yeah, we do. We're trying to get them out a little bit earlier when we have a Thursday or Friday game. So, but yeah, he did kind of say, this game overall was just horrible to watch. And, we were kind of in somewhat excruciating pain mentally. I think watching the game from the hill on Friday evening, and certainly watching back the replay, it doesn't make it look much better. All the drama from this game just comes from the fact it never got out to a blowout. It threatened it early, but then obviously we stuck in it and through some hard graft, and then both teams were just kind of slugged it out in some real kind of almost trench warfare kind of stuff in the second half. Low scoring, high opportunity, but bad finishing and a few things. But yeah, Simon said it was just the low kicks getting picked off, like the Logan Evans one, for example, not to single him out, there's plenty, but that one early in the game that I think led to the Bulldogs, one of their 6 in the first quarter. Yeah, it was a game where a lot of players kind of let themselves down a little bit in skill as a starting point from, previous weeks where we've been pretty happy with skill levels. The showdown become a bit of a slugfest, but was still, against a very, very good team. Not that the Bulldogs aren't, but yeah, the last couple of weeks have seen the skills drop off. A little bit of hesitancy as well. Maybe as a team starts believing a little bit in themselves, they're starting to try to take the next step. And there was a little bit of hesitancy and what in the game on Friday night that just led to what we saw as a horrible game.
It was excruciating. Being on the hill as well, in our case, it tends to just amp up the emotional level for some reason as well. You kind of just regress back into an instinctual being from the caveman, a Neanderthal of sorts, ever so slightly. And it was tough to watch for large portions of the game because you're right. Although the skill level in the showdown left a lot to be desired, we were very happy with the Geelong game, obviously, and we were also very happy with the skill level in the Hawthorn game. That blew out more so just due to centre stoppage inadequacies, if I can get that word out. Now, we've all heard the phrase pressure makes diamonds, but during the cricketing summer, I also heard a flip side of that to say that pressure bursts pipes, and it did seem at times across that game that pressure was causing our pipes to burst as such. And I mentioned in the lead up to the showdown that with a young, inexperienced group, that is, that we may face some fluctuation. And I desperately hoped it didn't come in the showdown. And half of one, how am I going with my phrases? 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. You could say that maybe our form or skill level did fluctuate during that game. And this game,
1 minute or 60 seconds, 1 minute or 60 seconds, depending on which sign's up on the sideline.
That got brought up way too many times for my liking in the commentary. Are we talking about signs now? In a game that, never really went larger than a 3-goal margin for the entirety of the game. So on paper, it seemed like it was a good game, but in actual fact, particularly if you're a Port Adelaide fan, you just see a team that probably regressed a little bit, maybe fell into some old habits under pressure, because there's no doubt that particularly in the first half, we went into our shell a little bit in the face of a high level of congestion that the Western Bulldogs are forced upon us, maybe learning a bit of Adelaide's front half strategy from the week before against us. And you could, for those of you who are watching from home or who may be at a higher vantage point at the ground, if you went to the game, being on the hill with that lower trajectory, you could just see essentially what the players were seeing. And the Western Bulldogs were heavily congesting every portion of the ground where the ball was, which made it very difficult for us. And it's no surprise why we seemed on the back foot a lot and seemed a bit apprehensive to pull the trigger, even though, as Josh Carrs said, there's still times where you have to try and take it on, because Western Bulldogs are one of the more heavily scored against sides in the AFL in the last 4 to 5 weeks. So there's clearly a deficiency there, and we spoke about it. Well, you spoke about it in depth in the preview. I kind of put a little nugget of wisdom in my voice note. But yeah, we just kind of fell into old habits and just kind of took it a bit too easy. And then after half time, we decided to take it to them. And while the skill level didn't increase to a drastic effect, we put up much more of a fight, and it effectively got us in the game. Whether you can say we held them to 1 goal 9 in the second half, they scored only 1 goal 9, and we had a real shot to snatch it, even though I would agree, I'm sure you agree, and everyone watching or listening, whatever your proclivity is, shout out to Alan Power, who we saw on the hill, a friend of the pod. It was a pretty horrible display by our boys for large portions of the game.
Yeah, I think Dwayne in commentary, when we were surging forward after, getting close to, I can't remember if we'd already tied up the scores or it was getting close to tying up the scores. He called the potential of a Port boil over late in the game a crime of the century or something like that, which may be a little bit strong, but it probably spoke to maybe the fact that the Dogs had, by and large, controlled the game, and it was just a surge kind of, or just a mentality of we just have no option but to go forward and try to steal it. But it's funny looking at the stats. I was surprised to see some of them a little bit closer than I was expecting. I mean, we win the turnover battle by +3, so to speak, in golf terms, -3 maybe. But and then contested possessions close, probably, and disposal efficiency also marginally better on our end, though the Dogs do have 17 more disposals for the game, but there's not a great discrepancy in disposals or disposal efficiency. So we go at 74%, they go at 73 plus change. Areas that I was surprised to see, and I think it more speaks to maybe that was a close contested game a little bit at the time, obviously the congestion and everything like that. And I think it's one of those ones that we kind of said last year at times, turnover, not all turnovers are created equal, and certainly the Bulldogs made there was a couple of really, really bad clanger turnovers of ours that would directly resulted in goals, whether it be the Logan Evans kicking into the man that he's trying to just dink the ball over, and it's just like, just clear him. Just make sure you clear him. Because obviously the alternative was the fact that if you turn it over there, then it's open space for someone to run into and score. Aaliyah trying to get a bit too cute coming out of the back as well. It leads directly to a goal. So there's a few of those that were direct goal scoring, but still the scoring from turnover wasn't drastically different either, I don't believe. I'm just scrolling down to my stats here again, the extensive stats pack I've got here, but score source from turnover was 6-6 each. So, we kind of were able to score from turnover as well. But, just it was such a close game. Stoppage score was 4-4 to 4-8 their way. So close. They just score a few more points, and maybe you should have cranked that into a little bit more scoring. But yeah, a lot of that is just we kept it close through some graft, and there is some positives to take out of that, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit, as far as just the ethos of the side to never give in and not wave the white flag, as we maybe saw a little bit at times last year. But yeah, you still just, the Dogs were just better. The way the Dogs spread, once they got possession of the ball back, they spread. The switch was, they had a clear game plan, just and they got runners into space. They were cleaner with the ball. Bont playing on one leg was, just incredible. Played an incredible Bont game, and we, it must be said, we go in taking a chance by not picking Todd Marshall down back, and then we lose Bergman essentially early. He only comes back on a couple of times, but if he's torn a ligament and is
clearly hampered
10 minutes, then he's not Bergman. So you lose many a tall, you kind of medium backs that's going to play tall and take marks and be a distributor out of the back a little bit as well, which I think affects our ability to move the ball as well when you're losing. You don't have Todd Marshall down there. Obviously, that was a choice, but then you lose Bergman, and you're already playing a dog side that's kind of congesting the traffic, so to speak. We were going to struggle from there, I think, and then just the fact that we kind of fell in and were in our shells a little bit in that first half.
Yeah, I totally agree. Not ideal losing Bergman, one of our pseudo tools, if you will. Yeah, with the non-selection of Marshall, like you said. How can you forecast a torn ligament in a big toe, though? It's ridiculous. We're just finding all sorts of ways of copping injuries, aren't we? But I noticed X score, I think we overshot it by about a goal and a half. And then the Western Bulldogs X score was about 91 points. And it was one of those games where I know you like to preface X score by saying it is just a binary way to look at what set shots should equate to, shots at goal should equate to. But this was one of those ones where I think a lot of the football public watching that game felt like that should be the margin. However, it was really close. When I saw it, I was like, yeah, that probably makes a bit more sense. We just did enough, and we relied on, again, we could. One thing I do appreciate about Josh Carr's press conferences, and while Adam Simpson in particular, is giving him a bit of criticism for being just monotone and negative all the time, I do find it refreshing that we're actually getting some honest insight into his thoughts about how we performs on any given day. And unfortunately, that's been some losses and some hard losses to take, being close recently. But I can't remember where I was going with that. I'll hand back to you because I've just completely lost the point that I was trying to make in regards to Kari's press conference. Apart from the fact that they are refreshing and he doesn't hold back with his analysis.
Yeah, no, it is refreshing for him to just come out and say we were horrible tonight. And, that's the kind of, we're wanting to see a kind of a resetting of standards to what his ethos is. And some people will look at it and go, oh, geez, that's, pretty harsh. And by comparison to, I think different coaches have different kind of ethos on how they do things. And, Hinkley was always, and a lot of coaches do say part of our job is just to take the heat off the players. But I think sometimes you do have to put the heat on. I don't think he's put the heat too much on the players, but he said, some people were underdone. He also did criticize himself by saying, I didn't put, JHF in the middle enough, and probably got the, I think start. I can't remember if he said it. I'm literally reading another one of Simon's comments, and thank you again to Simon, talking about, starting, Vicentini in the middle and a few of those things. And there's moments where Carr takes the heat and acknowledges his own mistakes, as well as just making it known that his standards are to expect a lot more from that group on the night, regardless of whatever a bad luck that happens in the Bergman injury. You still want the guys that are out there to do the job, and in reality, we've got an extra person on the bench anyway, so one injury shouldn't make too much of an impact. But beyond the fact that Bergman's just clearly talented, and we'll take away a little bit from his
further than a matchup.
Yeah. But we still did handle things okay after that. And I think defending got better as the game went on. They just took some great marks, and there was some moments where we let ourselves down in those areas. We'll certainly talk about the Lions in a moment.
Sorry, hang on. The point I was trying to make before I forgot the point was that when he mentioned that too much was left to too few in the game, and again, that's what it felt like coming out of it. And it is more or less what we have been discussing. It's just like we need our best players to play well. Obviously, a lot of sides do, but to us, while generally we're getting a whole team effort, this game just did seem, like you said, like there was a few extra passengers. There was a large contingent of people who were maybe 5 to 10% off, and it was just through the acts of the likes of Zach Butters, Georgiadis up front, Aaliyah down back being a general. Although I think a lot of us think he probably had a down game in comparison to some of his recent form. And again, as Kari said in the presser, he is having to take on a lot of that burden in the back line. So yeah, that's what it felt like to me. And yeah, I do think it's funny. Yeah, we could discuss, but yeah, you just have to watch Josh Carr press conference. You'll find out everything you need to know, really. And yeah, but further than that, and you mentioned him taking the heat for some things, it did seem a bit cute in some regards. Starting Vizentini and persisting for the period of time that he did, because I'm a big believer in psychology in sport, and getting the mental edge any way you can. And I just feel that Jordan Sweet playing against the Western Bulldogs, whatever you think about the opposition ruckman, a guy is always going to want to prove himself against a team that he has formerly been associated with. I just think that's a given. And considering that the form he's in, I just think you let the ball run. He would have been champing at the bit. And whether that makes a material difference, we'll never know. But it did seem like the trigger could at least have been pulled earlier. And I obviously have all the faith in the world for Vizentini long term. And maybe they picked him for the first CBA for his jumping ability, but there's more to a CBA than just being able to jump at the ball. And unfortunately, he gave away at least 2 center line free kicks anyway. And he was foxed into it. But that's also
experience.
I don't know if you noticed, but he tended to, I think they mentioned it in commentary, he tended to be looking at English rather than the ball on a few occasions. And that shows a level of immaturity and timidity, maybe. You're more concerned because you don't 100% back yourself in the moment. So yeah, again, fluctuation from a young, inexperienced player. It's not a massive surprise. It's just unfortunate that happened. Yet we persisted with it to a point that we were 3 goals down all of a sudden, and had to work our way back, which is an unwanted theme in games this season as well.
Yeah, I mean, we might start with the midfield line in a moment, but I was just thinking about a few conversations we had on the hill early in that game, and one of them was you and I and your brother and my brother-in-law kind of all going like, "Where's Sweet?" Like immediately, like after a few of those first center clearances and kind of seeing what was going on already, we were like, "Get him in there!" And like you said, probably took another few minutes of frustration before we actually saw him get out there, and it kind of felt like, yeah, it's when we're on the hill, kind of going, and look, we're just nuffies on the hill. We're not going to say that we've got more in, and a coach Carr would have probably been immediately noticing it as well, obviously, but he's trying to give him a chance. But it's just like that's the kind of rock and a hard place you are as a coach. You want to give your guy a shot and want to give him a bit more time to figure it out. And maybe he looked at it and went,
Because we're in a rebuild.
Yeah, exactly. No, you can't.
Doing it for Dougie.
The rebuild that shall not be named. Yeah, do it for Dougie. But in another conversation we had in the Hill as well, I think I turned to you guys a couple of times and I said it feels like St Kilda right now, and not that we played anywhere near as we did against St Kilda either this year or the last year's game where we wore the classic Guernsey last year as well. But St Kilda both years, the last 2 years at Adelaide Oval, we've given a head start and then we've crawled our way back into the game and actually played pretty good footy and probably were deserving of those results. This one's a bit different because we probably didn't deserve to win anyway. But, we've lost games we've deserved to win in the past, so I'll take those ones if I can get them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it felt right from the off. It felt like once we got back into it, but we kicked goals. It was a weird first quarter, 6-4, and then we only end up, 10 goals each by the end of the game. It was a lot higher scoring, but we finally got ourselves into the game. But it happened all game that we'd kick a goal, then immediately the next centre clearance would go the Dogs' way and they'd get a pretty quick reply. Felt like they had a reply most of the way through. Again, that goes to some midfield dominance where we can kind of, sneak into the lines now and start with the midfield, I think. We've already talked about a bit of the ruck matchup, but I think Sweet does a pretty good job once he gets in there as well. Has a pretty good game.
I agree.
I think it goes to show that the standard, the tone you set at the start of the game can be so important. Yes, you can undo a lot of wrongs throughout a game from the start. The start of the game isn't the be all and end all, but for a side like ours, we've not been scoring hugely against these obviously good sides and good defense. We're scoring okay. We're not scoring huge numbers. Our defense is one of the best in the competition, but our attack is middling, just below AFL average. So we need to be able to, defend a bit better, and we've been defending okay. But in this game, it's just like we gave up the game was won and lost in the middle and around the stoppage, and feels like the tone set at the start of the game was defining at the end of the game, especially in a 2-point game.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, we did discuss just the fact that we couldn't build momentum. It was largely that first half, though. I think that the first half overwhelms your emotions in retrospect, because yet again we keep a side goalless in a quarter, to go off the back of your defense note, which does kind of start in the midfield, and it did look like we were rocking and rolling a bit more. Yeah, Sweet coming into his own, JHF getting some time on ball. I think he either jarred or his hand was stepped on, jarred his finger or his hand was stepped on. Because he was getting his thumb strapped up and obviously causing him a bit of discomfort.
We noticed it on the night. I can't remember if you recall.
He was
watching him.
Yeah.
We thought he was just winded, and we were talking about his asthma at one point, but I think it was that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was on his haunches for a while.
Yeah, we're trying to diagnose him from 100 meters away with a beer in our hand, going, "Yeah, it might be his asthma."
Yeah. No, I think it's asthma. I think, yeah. He's got asthma. Did you know that? That's why he starts on the bench sometimes. Yeah, but
his thumb after all.
I mean. Yeah. I mean, and how much that holds a guy back like that? I mean, he did kick, 3 goals off his dick with a broken foot against West Coast last year. Maybe it's just an overall down game, but he was impacting. And I know that JHF has copped a little bit of criticism in the aftermath because he only had 18 disposals. He did have 10 of those in the second half. And while that's not kicking the door down, it did coincide with him playing more midfield time. I mean, I think he led us maybe not let us, but I think he was up there on the podium for clearances and score involvements. So again, maybe not entirely his fault because he was stuck in an area of the ground that we couldn't get it to for the first couple of quarters. But once he got into the midfield, he made his presence felt. And that's another aspect of playing a bit too cute is Jeff, as we've affectionately labelled him. He attracts attention. My name Jeff. He attracts attention. He asks a question of the opposition when they've got a midfield that asks you a lot of questions. And I think Bontempelli's strapping on his knee is just for show, just so that the umpires give him votes so he can finally get his Brownlow. Because it just 33 the week before, and he got 30 with a bung knee. He rocks up limping, and then behind closed doors, it's smooth sailing. I don't know, conspiracy theory, maybe.
This is a Daniel Day-Lewis year, like method acting his way to a Brownlow.
Yeah. I drink your milkshake. Bontempelli surely drank our milkshake on Friday night, that's for sure. But their midfield, everyone knows that's their strong suit. They have players who ask you a lot of questions, including English as their ruckman. So that's why I feel that JHF, talk about setting the tone. I would have had him in that area much more often. Again, easier said from the comfort of my own living room, even though I was at the ground. But that's just my opinion about JHF. He commands attention and can potentially free the stoppage up for someone else. Because, in that second half, that's what we did see coming to the fore, and it got us back into the game. We kicked 2 goals, 2-1 behind in that third quarter to really make it a contest. And then obviously the fourth quarter played out how it did, with both teams, kind of going goal for goal. Like I said, I think it was 2 one way to the others as we bridged the gap late.
Yeah, I think the Dogs actually only had 1 goal for the entire second half, which was insane. A lot of points.
Yes.
So that's Yeah, no, JHF was at 65% of CBAs, which a lot of those in the second half. I think, again, that's kind of what Josh Carr was speaking of, like would have liked to maybe in hindsight get him around the ball a little bit more earlier, maybe get that number up above 70 and obviously around the stoppage a bit as well. Because you see there was a couple of them on the night again, or maybe a couple, not much more, but just those ones where Butters gets out of the centre stoppage, kind of gets a touch of space, and horne-francis is already coming off the back end of the circle and just is at pace, and Butters just dishes off a handball to him at JHF in full flight. Those kind of 1-2, and they sometimes do it the other way as well, obviously, but just when those two can connect at a center bounce, it is electric, and then it's inside 50 in a flash. And we saw a lot of that against Geelong. It happened. He's had his moments last week in the showdown as well. Just be nice to see him. Ollie Wines and Willem Drew and Zach Butters all going 70. Butters was only at 78%, which is a little bit down on his output this year at the CBAs as well. Obviously, not as many. 10 goals each. It's a decent amount, but just a weird kind of the mix. The mix had been getting better and better over the last few weeks, and I think the mix is still going okay. It's just it was like they didn't kind of set the tone early well enough with. Starting with Vicentini, maybe not getting horne-francis into the game early enough. And look, he did spend a bit of time off in the first half getting that thumb strapped, and maybe they were just checking on a few things. So that is going to be a part of it as well. But to your point and the positives about horne-francis, despite the 18 possessions, he goes at 82%. He does, outside of Mitch Georgiades' 9 score involvements, he has the most, JHF has the most score involvements with 8. Butters has 7. So, with the 18, and we talked about it weeks ago, back when some of the criticism was happening about JHF. Again, a week is a long time in football, a month is a millennia. JHF was getting criticised a month ago, and then suddenly he was like, all Australian, and then now it's criticism again. We said with the way this team's set up and the way they're trying to do things, sometimes he's going to have these 18 to 20 disposal games. He still does a fair bit with it in this one. Obviously, we just want to see him start having more consistency, getting to that 25 number, upwards to that 30 that he had the 34 with the Peter Badco medal there a couple of weeks ago. We want to start getting there more consistently, and maybe his baseline being no less than the 23, 24. But, players are going to have bad games at times. Butters got tagged out against Geelong last year with 11 and 14 and stuff like that. Like, good players are going to have bad games. Dacos has had a few this year. It's going to happen. And JHF is young.
Yeah, I heard, I think we tuned into... My brother and I tuned into 5AA's post show on the way out. And there was a bit of a discussion about his best being the gap between his best and worst being quite big. I don't, he had a down game. I don't think he had a bad game. It is the point that I'm trying to make. And I know you're somewhat agreeing with me. I think his gap is shortening. between his best and worst. And I think he's elevated his best this year as evidenced by the Peter Badco medal. That was an electric game of football. But if, a bad game is you going at 83% off of 18 disposals and having 8 score involvements and 5 clearances or whatnot. 4 clearances, 3 from the center. So, I've seen him play worse, and so I think that gap is shortening.
Seen him play worse and get 3 Brownlow votes.
Exactly. So, hey, chuck a cheeky tenner on right now, everyone. No, gamble responsibly, of course. But just outside of the guns, Ollie played a role players game. They sent Drew to Bontempelli at stages. Obviously, it's a hard task, and Drew's up for the fight. But then, in a way, it doesn't really quell Bontempelli to the degree that we would probably like, and then it kind of makes Drew somewhat of a non-factor. He had some crafty tap-ons and stuff like that. So did Bontempelli in that regard, but Willem Drew, just being a bit of an ultimate team man, but it may have been to the detriment of his game a little bit. So even in an emotion-filled headspace, I was kind of like, is there a discussion where Drew is facing a bit of time on the bench, or in the Magoos? We got Brody there. Are they gonna try different things as the year goes on, doing it for Dougie after all? And while now that everything's calmed down and the dust has settled a little bit, probably not. I mean, but Brody's getting clearances and getting an okay amount of possessions and whatnot in the Magpies. So, and Josh Carr did say that he would play AFL this year. I guess he's played the one game, so if that's the extent of it, I just perhaps they needed to try something, but I think it just turned Drew into a bit of a non-factor. Well, funnily enough, we got back into the game, so the push and pull of magnets and the mix.
Jinx, you owe me a soda. I thought an interesting stat as well, and it's kind of, I guess it goes to, a lot of this is kind of midfield work as well. The disposal kind of mix, just keep using that word, it's kind of like a fantastic on Fireball. But we have 225 kicks in this
Fascinating.
game. Yeah. We have 225 kicks in this game, and so, which is only a few more than the Dogs, 7 more than the Dogs with their 218, but they have over 600 meters gained more from the kick. The Dogs have 24 more handballs than us, but the handball meters gained, we had 289 handball meters gained. The Dogs only had 86. I think it goes to show a little bit of the and my point being, I think the Dogs were just really, really clean. They got numbers around stoppage. They were really clean around there as well. The way they dished out handballs was they kind of just franked it. Like the way they franked their disposals, even though they weren't, as the numbers show, their turnovers were pretty even. They had their moments as well, turning over the ball. But just when the heat was in the kitchen, they just handled the ball better. And it's just, I found it really interesting to see those discrepancy in meters gain numbers, in particular the handball meters gain, because I thought their number would have been bigger just the way they were dishing it out. But then they were just getting always able to switch it to the open side and move the ball down. Their defensive 50 transition to forward 50 was quite good, and ours was actually quite terrible. I think the percentage rate was pretty low. Defensive 50 to forward 50, we're only 10% for us, and versus they're almost 25%. So, they're just ability. And then they obviously, Frank, that was just a good time in forward. Once they got it down to their forward half, they were able to lock it in. They had 19 tackles inside 50 to our 2, I think it was, or something like that. So, but just back to finishing in the midfield, I just think the way they were able to get numbers around the contest, and then obviously we haven't even mentioned the stoppage numbers, but just scrolling back up here, it was 30 clearances to 22 from stoppage, and obviously they had the +3 centre clearances, 11 to 8 there as well. So they were able to get dominance there, despite we had dominance in hit out, 43 of 31. But just as far as the extraction game goes, and just that cleanliness around there, and then just their ability to switch it and get it through was just far too good, and a bit of a lesson for our boys as well.
It was, and I think they mentioned the handball meters gained in commentary. I think a large part of that statistic happened in the third quarter when we were trying to take them on a bit more, and that elevated it, because they mentioned their minimal handball meters gained in that third quarter, and we were putting them under a bit more pressure. I mean, our pressure was up in the 190s for those. I think even in the second quarter. I mean, first quarter.
It was the first quarter that was the only quarter that it was quite. I think. I actually noted it when I was watching the replay. 7 minutes into the first quarter, it was 134 to 215. So that's a huge discrepancy in the pressure rating metrics. And I haven't seen.
Yeah, had people say. Yeah, had people mentioning the showdown letdown. Watching the game, and you would have hoped that in a new era that's not a thing, but unfortunately, just showdown hangover rears its ugly head. And whether that's a thing or not, who knows? Mental demons. But it was interesting. They made the ground quite wide, and they used that width. That they used every inch of the width of the ground, and Adelaide Oval is a more narrow ground than some in the country. But they made sure they used that because they knew that they had options to support, and it might be a lot of sideways handball or throwing, as we've come to expect from Western Bulldogs. Just a quick jab in there for them to find a release kick, and that's where the meters gain come from. While they are a high handball team, it is generally in close to find a release, and that's where they drive it forward. The midfield, there's also discussion about Jacob Ware's position in the team, and maybe he can find himself on the selection scrap heap potentially. And I just feel it's like another example of the wings, although they had a much more even game together this game. McKinlay obviously kicking a fantastic goal. The discussion does seem to be about Jacob Ware, and maybe that's because he's older. And maybe a goal buys you an extra week in the eyes of many. But there has been discussions to potentially, try something different. Like we all know, Lorenz has been racking up disposals in the SANFL, although his disposal number was a bit lower in our win over Central District on the weekend. It's tantalising. Change is tantalising, particularly after losses. Now, we both said that we wanted to wait for maybe an extended period of poor form. And even still, I'm not sure if it is poor form or a poor game. It's not a good game. It's not a great game. But is it enough to get dropped is the question.
Yeah. Particularly, he's had a good run, and they both had good runs in the side, and are at least understanding the structure and know what's going on there. And they've not played. And let's be real, the Dogs were a premiership favourite maybe a month ago or so. This is actually still a very, very good well set up side that has just been, hit hard by injuries, but they've still got some good players.
And we haven't also.
Yeah.
For anyone watching the commentary, they'll broadcast.
No, the injury list is not long at all, even though I've just seen it get added to by a couple more today.
Fuck's sake.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later as we wrap up. But look, I think, a bit more extended run of form or poor form possibly. I think particularly they are sometimes given roles that are a bit thankless as well. So, just let them kind of. I'm not gonna be worried about if Will Lorenz does get a shot or whoever else, or they change something.
No.
But I don't. No. Particularly in this game, it was shitty. It was greasy conditions. We seemed to slip a little bit more than they did, I thought, on the night. But there was a lot of side of the boot catching the slickness of the grass and not quite the studs not quite catching it, and guys go down. Joe Barry doing the moonwalk, etc. It was a moment in the game. And he got himself out of that reasonably well, considering the awkwardness of the moment. But if there's anything else in the midfield, feel free to touch on it. But I reckon forward line would be an interesting spot to touch on now. Always an interesting spot to touch on when Mitch Georgiades is kicking 4 goals for and looking like the best player on the planet, but also making you tear your hair out a couple of times a game. I guess it's probably just start there. He's one of the best fucking players in the world, and he also makes me tear my hair out on a weekly basis. And I love the guy more than anything. I mentioned to you, and I shared it on Instagram, I think last week before the game happened. There was an X score ladder posted in the lead up to the weekend, and it had Port's X score. If results were based on X score, again, just a binary metric, but X score being a relative metric to what the scoring opportunities were in a game. And Port, if the games were decided by X score going into last week, would be 6-2. Now, obviously, we lost this one, so you can call it 6-3. Unfortunately, you can look at it as a buy, and I'll defend Mitch in a moment. And obviously, again, when we bring up Mitch's profligacies in front of goal at the moment, it is not to call him out and make him less of a player. I still think he's maybe one of the top 3 to 4 forwards in the league at this point as far as his forward craft goes. But the binary thing is, and I think the commentators actually talked about it more in this game than any other I've seen so far, is they kind of said like they could be winning these games if he kicked just 1 or 2 more of these goals, and particularly the games that have been decided by less than a kick. One of those that he had the chance to win off his boot in the last 30 seconds. He's just missing a few easy opportunities, and it kind of cost us in this one again. If you want to be as binary as that, he again keeps us in the game as well because he is a constant threat, and he kicks 4 goals for. But he's just not kicking the easy ones, and it is becoming a noticeable problem now. I think most are kind of onto it now, and I think even he's acknowledged it this week as well.
Yeah, he's definitely got a form of the yips. It's not a full-blown yip issue because he's kicking goals, and his percentage is still over that 50%. We've seen him have the ultimate yips before he did his ACL, and that was bad. But then after he came back, his conversion rate was back to what it was early doors for Mitch Georgiades. And yeah, if he's kicking with the accuracy that he has over the last 2 years in particular, yeah, he's kicking those goals that potentially win us games, particularly the Hawthorn game. But as well as that, they just seem to come in clumps relatively. Like there was in the first quarter, he's had 2 shots on goal and gone 1 goal 1. And then, in the last quarter, in quick succession, had 2 shots on goal and gone the 1 goal 1. And you just feel that if Mitch goes 2 straight in that little 2-minute period that he has those 2 shots on goals, or 5-minute period, then that's the driver of momentum. And no game is, you don't want to put it on the hands of one person, but like you said, it is an issue. You can't deny it, because like there was one kick, I think it was in the last quarter, the goal that he did kick, he booted it from 50 and it looked like he kicked it with relative ease. And then I think he had a shot from a shorter distance, although still in that 40 to 50 meter range, and then took too long and kicked it on the instep or got too close to the man on the mark. It's just Ben Dixon mentioned that he might be just thinking about it too much at the top of his mark instead of just going through his work. And I'm sure now a lot of people have their theories as to what's going on, but at the end of the day, Mitch just needs to keep going at it, keep working at it. There's nothing that anyone else can do or say, really. He knows what he needs to do, and we can see some of the things as to what happens in the moment, but the why of it is who bloody knows. Maybe he does need to just get to the top of his mark and go through it, but we know how far modern AFL players run. you can forgive a guy for wanting to get his breath back at times too. So it's just disappointing more than anything, because like you said, he's one of the top 3 to 5 forwards in the comp. And I think you held on it last week. You want him to drive home that ascendancy and put his name up in lights to the rest of the competition to say, yeah, I'm fucking excellent, and here's the proof. But at the moment, last year we were banking on Mitch having 4 shots on goal a game, and now you can kind of bank on him having 6 or 7 shots on goal a game. As to his work rate and just the form that he's in, it's just unfortunate that we don't know. Yeah, there you go. We don't know what is going to come of it at any given moment when he does have a shot on goal, which is unfortunate, because you want, when forwards are in that flow state and period of form over the course of a season, and they're locked in, it's just a joy. Like, there's nothing better just seeing a big forward coming at the ball, getting a mark or what have you, shot on goal, and you can just sit back and just watch it sail through. At the moment, we're not being afforded that luxury, and the baby wants its bottle. We want that nourishment of being able to back George to kick those goals. The Hawthorn one is probably more definitive, but realistically, butterfly effect. You can't really pin anything down on him particularly. You could say that, if he kicks one more goal in these games that we win, but you don't actually know that either. It could easily just get replied to from a CBA.
Yeah. And I think the other thing to go back to maybe defending him a little bit, because he does deserve it. We also may not be anywhere near as close in these games if it's not for him. He's allowing Jack Whitlock is getting the benefit of Mitch Georgiades taking the number one defender every week, and George is the number one mark inside 50 player in the competition this year. He's the number one marks on the lead player in the competition this year. So that kind of goes to show what I was talking about. His forward craft, I think he's the number one, for me, the craftiest forward. The way he finds space in the lead, or can take a contested mark where whatever's needed. He both areas of his game are in top notch, in a top notch position at the moment. And to be fair, for the top players that are getting shots on game this year, I'm just looking at the top 5. I'm looking at the 6 players that are averaging more than 5 shots a game in the league this year. So at 5.1 shots a game is Logan Morris, and he's at 51% accuracy. Jake Waterman's at 5.2 shots per game. He's at 38.3% accuracy.
Yeah.
Curno's at 5.5. Yeah. Charlie Curno's at 5.5 shots a game. He's at 45.5% accuracy. Mitch Georgiades at 3rd in the comp is 5.7 a game, is at 49%. Jeremy McCameron is having 6.1 shots a game. He's at 49% as well. And Jack Gunston, who is at 6.9 shots a game, is at 54%. So you look at that top 6, and they're all between 38 and 54%, and Mitch is right in the middle. So it could be. I'm not a full-time stats man, so I'd love to, but it could be just the amount of opportunity and tiredness in game. They talk about all the GPS numbers of strides shortening when players have had a certain amount of time out there. I think Mitch just there is something technical there in those missed shots, but it also goes to show in looking at that there's actually a lot of good forwards that and if you look at it in isolation, you go, oh no, the other forwards in the comp are making better of these opportunities. And there is something to be said about the fact that Jeremy Cameron's had 20 shots from general play, Jack Gunston's had 15, Mitch has only had 4. So there's still a set shot problem, probably that's a little bit more prominent with Mitch. But overall, they're all finding a way to get shots on goal, and they're all at relatively similar accuracy. There's only one outlier in the top 10 there, which is Ben King, who's just shooting at 80% accuracy this year, which just won't. I will say congratulations to Ben King for starting the year that way. That is not sustainable. He'll drop back down to 60.
Well, there's an interesting subplot to that statistic, and they were talking about it on 5AA last week, is that Ben King has most of his shots from between 0 to 30 meters, Whereas Mitch Georgiadis, on the other hand, takes most of his shots from 35 meters plus, which obviously, as we know from an X score point of view, lowers the percentage of return. Again, good on Ben King for getting those opportunities close to goal, because it definitely does help your case in converting. And I know Mitch missed one or two from pretty short distances out on Friday night, but the majority of his shots are coming from long range, if you will, rather than close range. Yeah. So if we can potentially find a way to change that, but at the end of the day, I think Mitch is still good for it. I just think that on occasions he doesn't back himself to kick 50 meters, which is a guy like him. You would think that he'd have that confidence in himself, but he does tend to get a bit close to the man on the mark when he is kicking from about 50 meters out for whatever reason. So again, we all have our theories. There's one of mine. It's quite obvious to say I think he should back himself and just take that few extra steps further back in his run up and back himself to kick through the ball, kick with a bit more fluency and not having to worry about the man on the mark. But yeah, again, it could be a multitude of things, and he needs to work on it to give us a better chance of winning, but also drive home his stature in the game and potentially win the bloody Coleman medal, because that'd be nice. It's not something that Port Adelaide has in its trophy cabinet, if you will.
Yeah, glaring omission probably. We've got a Brownlow, we've got a couple of Rising Star winners. The one thing that's probably that we're missing is a Coleman winner. So it'd be lovely to see him get the job done. Ben, he's had 51 shots on goal, which is the second most in the comp this year, behind Jack Gunston with his 55. Ben King's had 40 shots on goal and is, leading the Coleman with 32 goals. So he's, 32 out of 40. And, Mitch is 7 goals behind him. So Mitch is still, that after all this, we're talking, all these things we're saying, Mitch is still, third in the Coleman medal, which is very, very, it's exactly, if we were sitting here at the start of the year and saying, 9 rounds in, Mitch will be third in the Coleman medal, we would have been like, sure, that's great. Like, love that. So, I'm, there's a lot of areas in Mitch's game and in the forward line that are actually and again, I want to push home the fact that he is. I think his forward craft thing, just to finish on him. I mean, interesting to see what you think, but I'm sure I know we both love him. His forward craft and what he's doing as a forward is one of my favorite things about what he's doing this year. That is the real growth I see in his game, and how he's controlling the forward line and making space his. The leads, again, number one player and for marking on the lead in the competition, and just the fact that there doesn't seem to be a real way to beat him as a defender. Like, defenders aren't having a great time against him. It more comes down to team defense, and sometimes, but when our delivery inside forward 50 is there, and even this game, it wasn't there that greatly, but Mitch still fucking found opportunity to kick 4 goals for. So I think overall, what I'm happy with this year is just his forward craft. I think he's just one of the best players to watch in the competition for watching forward craft. And again, it's creating opportunities for his fellow forwards, which we can touch on a bit here. There wasn't a great load of opportunities for the fellow forwards, again, being a bit of a trench warfare game, but, Whitlock gets a goal. Durden has his first bad miss of the year, I think, for me, in that early opportunity, which was unfortunate. But yeah, I think Mitch is opening up the forward line.
For a guy who is kicking accurately.
Yes, very accurately. What is 15-6 after this game, I think?
Something like that, yeah.
How did you see the rest of it? I mean, it's not a great game as far as, lots of goal scoring opportunity, but we saw Whitlock have his moments and Durden as well, just a little bit less so than most games that we would like.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because Mitch is carrying a heavy load. Like you mentioned, Mitch is the one that's getting us close to winning these games, as well as he is in some eyes not getting us over the line. Because, I mean, you take him out and it looks a very, very thin forward line. And while Jack Whitlock...
he might be Carlton without Mitch Georgiades, so that's the compliment I'll give him. That's how he is very, very. I think was it. I can't remember who. I think there was an advertiser journalist that wrote an article about how he's not, maybe not our best player, but he's the most important player. And like I understand that kind of idea with Mitch. It's like he is so important to us at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if Mitch was to go down, we're getting like a Xavier Walsh or potentially an Azava Radicalia again for that magnet switch. But yeah, look, not that even spread that we've become accustomed to in terms of the forwards. You would back Durden to kick 2 straight from his 2 opportunities. And again, he comes in with a goal assist. You'd like JHF to get on the scoreboard, even as a mid. Once, funnily enough, he's playing as forward when the ball's not getting down there. But then when he's shifted, the ball's getting in there because he's playing in midfield. So he can't exactly kick it to himself. Kari mentioned that Whitlock had a down game. What's that?
I feel like Jason Horne-Francis is the kind of player that could like do the like rugby kick up in the air and somehow market himself like
run on. Yeah. Well, he's a good contested overhead mark. Yeah. Whitlock kept presenting. Yeah. I mean, Kari mentioned that Whitlock had a down game, but that's okay because he's young and that's development. And yeah, I think a bit of it comes down to his contested marking, which I think we can all extrapolate out his career and say it's just a matter of time, really. But at the moment, maybe he's taking a defender off Georgiades. I'm not sure George would get the Charlie Dixon treatment of 4 people hanging off of him. But maybe, if Whitlock's not there to kind of keep those leading lanes free and just being that foil, does George get some of those opportunities? I'm not sure, but after getting his Rising Star nom, the forwards didn't have a really great go of it. We kind of had to scrounge for score when it came our way. A couple of nice goals, but nothing really to write home about. Disappointing that Kane Farrell, his goal was touched on the line. He seemed to be kicking under the ball a bit on Friday night, particularly that last foray out of the kick in when they got a point ahead. He seemed to kick it up. And I mean, Kane Farrell kicking it, with a 8 or a 9 iron still goes a fair way. But just would have liked a bit more penetration on it. And that was a bit like his shot on goal. He still kicked it a fair way for the size of the bloke, but usually accustomed to a bit more penetration with his kicks.
Yeah. I think there was some 6 and 7 iron chat as he well, I think they talked about the 6 iron, and then when it came back that it was touched, I think someone went, should he use the 7 iron route? We saw that. I think on the night we kind of celebrated. I kind of looked straight away at, I can't remember who the Western Bulldogs defender was that touched it, but he was. We talked about body language on last week.
Was either Buslinger or Selwood?
Yeah. I don't know Buslinger, but we talked about body language with the Saligo goal over the post or point over the post last week, and it kind of came to my mind when we saw that adamant kind of. You can just tell when a player's like, maybe I touched it, but he was just like, yeah, I touched it, and I thought, this is. There was a moment. It took a while for it to come back, and they were setting up in the center. I was like, maybe it's because the player might have thought they touched it, but then not realized how far over the line they were. So that is an opportunity as well. But I was pretty sure he touched it, and then it was just like where he was, and
it looked close.
Replay showed that it was comfortably before the line. So we can't complain about those ones. Just we can complain about a lot of other ones. Probably not much more else to write home about the forward line. If you have anything else, I mean, it was just a night that we unfortunately spent a lot of time behind center, so getting forward was tougher, and so there was a lot of shallower entries as well. So it didn't, which again goes to show the kind of night Mitch had to, kick 4 goals for and find opportunity to have that many scoring opportunities goes to show his craft as well. But ultimately, it's just when you're having that hard of a night and getting good forward entries, then it's going to be tougher otherwise. And a few missed opportunities for others. Jace Burgoyne missed a shot. Corey Durden's missed one. You really when you're struggling to get those forward 50 entries good, then you want to take advantage of those opportunities. And we just missed a few too many opportunities. But the Bulldogs could say the same about themselves as we head to the deep. Yeah, and we can head to the defensive line. And I think a point to start is probably, I think we kind of touched on Aaliyah earlier, but probably has maybe his more disappointing game by his standard, though. His stat sheet shows and he had some very, very good moments, but I think the last 2 weeks he's just missed a few marks, been a bit fumbly, obviously has unfortunately had a few clangers that have just led directly to goals. Before I throw to you for a moment, a stat that I've picked up on, because I know I looked up where he was averaging clanger wise going into the showdown. He was at about 3.2 a game. He had 6 in the showdown. He had 5 in this one, and between Geelong and Hawthorn, he only had 5 total across those games. So he's just been a little bit looser with the ball over the past couple of weeks. And to your point that you kind of made earlier, maybe he's shouldering a heavy load, and maybe just there's a touch of. I think he's a very, very fit man, and I don't think he'd acknowledge much fatigue, but maybe it's just like the load on him in this game, in particular when Bergman goes down, he doesn't have any other recognised, key defender around him. I think and then the Bulldogs were just able to, because of their front half game and what they were doing and their ball movement going inside, not that they were super clean either, but they were just able to find, and you picked it up very early on the night as well. The Bulldogs were blocking his lanes, kind of screening him off and being able to kind of take away his ability to intercept as well.
Yeah, they did that pretty well. Another 100% time on ground for Aaliyah too. He's just an athletic machine. And yeah, we're talking about a bad game. Predominantly the clangers. Yeah, I mean, you reduce those. And again, Mitch can kick his 4 goals for, because Bulldogs haven't had a goal against the run. And I mean, they had been goalless for over a quarter by that stage. I think that was the West goal was the one that kind of got them back rolling in a goal sense, if I remember correctly.
It was their only goal of the second half, I think. So.
Well, that's right, yeah, because they only kicked 1 goal 9. Yeah, with the amount of shots they had, I'm like, I keep thinking that surely there was another shot, even though I know that bloody scores. But
they did miss a few, not easy set shots, but similar to those Mitch 35 on a slight angle ones that you're
yeah. You come away from it going, fuck, that was lucky. Thank you. Thanks for the ball back. But yeah, take clangers aside, I mean, Aaliyah leading intercept possessions for us with 9 and 13 marks, 4 of which are intercepts and 2 of which are contested. So, I mean, he's still in all Australian form. That's for sure. AA for AA. But yeah, that clanger number is just interesting, and perhaps he needs some reinforcements in terms of tall defenders, key position defenders to kind of, maybe his mind's spinning a little bit, even though he seems a cool, calm and collected customer at the best of times. So I think I mentioned to someone online, dare I say it, I hope Asava has a good game for the Maggies. Apparently he looked short of a gallop, which is no surprise after having a clean out of his knee and being sidelined for the period of time that he was. Zerk Thatcher just seems like he's getting the Ivan Soldo treatment. And Todd Marshall didn't light up the world apart from a match winning goal, so to speak, on the weekend. So maybe that's the case, but yeah, you would like to see this game with Miles Bergman back in there to shore it up a little bit more in terms of the unit. But I think particularly that goal in the last quarter for the Western Bulldogs, just a brain fade moment. Obviously we could all see what he was trying to do, but he made it a lot more difficult than it needed to be. And as such, just get back off your mark just a little bit more, and don't handball to someone's feet because you're essentially handballing through the man on the mark. Weird shit everywhere, considering that he's still holding up his own and carrying a heavy load for a lot of these games. You wouldn't want a straw to break the camel's back, though, would you? In games to come, I mean, we've got Gold Coast in Darwin, which is going to be a very interesting game, just conditions-wise, for players like Lear and some of the other tools that we may or may not keep or bring in. But then, we've got Carlton, and I'm not sure who else after that. But, you wouldn't want it, cook him, and then a downturn in form comes with the clangers that have kind of crept in over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. I think it does feel like he just feels like he's got to do a lot of work down there, and it would be nice to find a way to get him some help. The marks inside 50 for the Bulldogs, they took 14 marks inside 50, so they were really able to. It's probably lucky that we didn't lose by more, and X score kind of extrapolates that a little bit, because we actually took more marks for the game, but we took 11 inside 50 ourselves. But they did take a few. Like Aaron Norton particularly kind of got off the leash early, and in the area of the game where they were able to get Aaliyah kind of broken off at the side a little bit. There was I think was it Will Lewis that took the one hander on Aaliyah, and it kind of like Aaliyah didn't really recognize that someone was. He kind of felt like he had the rights to the space and didn't kind of body up well enough to at least protect. Whether or not he takes the mark, but you at least don't want someone coming in over the top and kind of taking a 1.5 hander on you. Like that's a bit of a mistake as well on his part, but he kind of just didn't recognize the guy. It's just a good mark as well. Like there is a part of the athleticism and just the luck of the moment that a player just makes the ball his, but you'd want a bit better from Aaliyah there as well. And they just had a few of those moments in this game where the ball just fell into their hands a little. Kind of felt like at times. But again, you make your luck somewhat through just your drive for the ball and drive to get it forward. So I was pretty impressed with a lot of the other guys, so to speak, down back. Josh Lai, which is disappointing to see he copped a concussion late in the game and he's in the protocol. So brief look forward. He's obviously out this week, and he's had some pretty good moments over since obviously getting the fire lit under him about the performance of Nick Watson. I think he's actually been reasonably good over the last few weeks, and he had some great moments in the game as well.
I totally agree. Yeah, he's such a diamond in the rough, or potentially could be a diamond in the rough. Not gonna say he's a diamond just yet, but I mean, 7 intercept possessions was second behind Aaliyah, taking the 8 marks. He's gone at 92%, with 369. Damn, you're fine. Again, meters gained. So, and the thing that I like is that he puts his head in the hole. Like, if there's a ball to go back with the flight, he goes back with the flight. He backs himself. He's still getting the double fist punch spoil. Double fist spoil going. But I feel the moment that sticks in my mind, I think it was playing the percentages in that moment. Like, Mark would have been a bit too much of a risk, and that one was warranted. But yeah, he backs himself. He seems like a confident young man, and who knows, potentially it is a bit of that. He's lived in the real world for a little bit past his draft year. I don't even know if he was considering football at the elite level when he was 18 or whatnot, but potentially a bit of that. Who knows? Maybe he's got some Islander roots, just judging by his Josh Lai. Not to go too deep in the weeds in that and get myself in trouble, but compliment to him. They're tough buggers, if that is the case. And I just really like what he's made of, and again, trying to extrapolate out what that could potentially become. It's promising. It's just a shame, like you said, he got concussed late in the game, and has now been put into protocols. So whether he comes back in after he's served that time or not, left to be seen. I would imagine he does, because I'm kind of looking at what our selection may be coming into Gold Coast and going, yeah, we're probably shifting magnets around and putting a bit of a heavier load on some guys who are already there and having to be supported by the wings, for example, potentially. Yeah, I'm not sure in terms of medium defenders. But yeah, outside of Josh Lye, I thought Logan Evans just backed up another good game. He's really coming into his own. I feel just the difference between season 2025 for Logan and season 2026 is just chalk and cheese. He backs himself. Yeah, there was a couple of those moments, like you said, in the first quarter, just too soft on the kick, just kicking it straight into the man on the mark, and that happened too many times. Like, it can't be a coincidence that happened. Like, something's going on there, or something went on there across the course of the evening. So yeah, he had one or two of those moments, but outside of that, his defensive accountability, and then his willingness to, create change of possession and launch the ball forward is commendable, I think.
Yeah, his body language is really, really good this year. He looks confident. He commands a bit of space. Like, he's still a slender body, but he just looks a little bit more mature, and there's a little bit of swagger about the way he's playing. And I think outside of those moments, and you can credit, like, the isolation of the moments they just are horrible turnovers, but to look forward, it shows that he's got a little bit of, that is part of the Josh Carr ethos that we've been celebrating over the past month or so. In particular, is that they're backing players to kind of use their ingenuity on field, and he tried something and it didn't work. And we're as we are in a real rebuild, that's kind of what we want to see. And he's going to learn from that. That's going to be something that would have absolutely been keyed in on in the post game review. It's like, what are the options here, and what are you seeing, and how do you deal with it better in the future? And outside of that, he took some great marks down back. He had some moments that he did help us stay in the game as well. So that must be said. Yes, you can say, look, if you want to call it down to binary moments and call like what was scored against versus, it may not look good, but by and large, as far as the structure of the defense goes, and as you were talking about with some of the injuries we've got, the likes of Logan Evans, Lockie Jones having another reasonable game as well. Those guys are going to be key pillars in the defense for the next few weeks, at least, for sure. So back them in and let them keep doing what they're doing. So, I'm pretty happy with what both of those guys are doing. They've and Josh Lye as well. Like they're all Lockie Jones. You were doing your little throwdowns with Lockie Jones on the hill on the night. We were talking about him a little bit again. Like, he's just into his work, and he's knock on wood, as I'm going to do now. Lockie Jones is just feeling like he's in some good form and starting to feel really, really comfortable in the side. And it's got to be one of his longer runs in the side at this point.
Yes.
It feels like. I don't know. I haven't gone through the stats because it's only just come to mind for me, but it feels like he used to always get an injury every couple of weeks almost, or at least have to spend a week out for any number of reasons. And he's been locked into the side for 5-6 weeks now, and is really, really looking sharp, taking some good marks, not dropping too many from memory. Like, he's taken the marks he should take, and a bit of a force down back. And this defense is benefited by Lockie Jones' presence, particularly the fact that we are the last few weeks playing pretty, not playing too many key recognised defenders. Lockie Jones is somewhat taking that mantle a little bit and playing it reasonably well, alongside the likes of Logan Evans and Josh Lye doing their work down there as well and playing nice and tall.
I feel like Lockie Jones is building trust both within himself, but obviously within his teammates. His teammates would obviously know what he has to offer, and they're probably been just as frustrated as him over the journey that he can't get that run knowing what he has to offer. But I guess from a fan point of view, like over the last 2 or 3 years, I think when we lose a game of football, a lot of fans are quick to call for him to get dropped, if he is playing, that is. Because like you said, he has had a good run at it now, and that was always our theory, was that if we could get an extended run, that he would actually come into his own, because he just, for whatever reason, seems apprehensive upon return to really get into his work. And he's done a lot of hamstrings. So, you know, you got to build the trust in your body, I suppose. But it just seems like that player who was prone to it. So therefore it did linger in the mind and needed to get into his work. But he is, his disposal efficiency was a bit down this week. I think I mentioned last week that his kicking efficiency was around 89%. I haven't checked that today, unfortunately. But he's found more of the ball this week. Obviously, the ball was in that area a lot more. But he's also taken the 8 marks, 2 of them intercepts. Yeah, I just feel that across the board, those people inside and out are probably building a lot more trust in Lockie. And he's actually getting to show the attributes that will make him a long-term AFL footballer. I mean, he's... I'm not sure what it would equate to, but he'd be getting close to 100 games now. And that's when you've got to have your MO down pat. You got to have what you're going to offer on display more often than not. And I feel that I think he still has levels to get to. But what I feel we're getting is a good, solid, consistent effort. And he adds an element to our game that helps and can help win us games of football.
82 games he's at the moment. If the Port Adelaide website is up to date, which I assume it is.
I think that's right.
Yeah. So
I think that's right.
All going well, he'll be playing his 100th early next season. But yeah, I absolutely agree. I'm really, really comfortable with where he's developing, and he's still only 24. Players playing his kind of role can sometimes just take some time. I mean, there's been a lot of talk. I'm not comparing him to Tom Stewart at all, but there's been a lot of talk about the journeys of some players, and Tom Stewart with his journey to 200 games has been like less than traditional. Rocky Jones has obviously come into the system sooner. Players just sometimes, and he always showed that he had the talent early. It's just get the body right, and he's going to be. He can easily play 200 games in the AFL as well. And I absolutely have full faith that, he will. I think he's just one of those, some players just have injuries early. That's just Robbie Gray had a few, I always talk about the example of Steph Curry. They always talk about him in the NBA for the first few years having glass ankles. And then,
Hamish Hartlett.
Yeah. That is actually probably a very, very good comp. Players can sometimes they just have to battle a few injuries early, and as long as they stay dedicated to the craft and their preparation and their work, and during the week in the gym and whatever, like they'll kind of get it right and figure it out as they go forward. So, full faith in that. And overall, the defense still gave us a shot to win the game in moments in this one. I think they kind of grew into the game as well, and the Dogs' shots at goal in the second half, they missed a few, but we didn't give them any easy looks apart from maybe 1 or 2 off of turnover and a couple of marks. By and large, I think we were doing okay to frustrate them as well, which I think shows in the stats by and large at the end of the game.
It's what keeps the enthusiasm going. I think for punters like us is that real score was mid-70s. X score wasn't even over 100, and it's a credit to the club, and particularly to the defence, that since round 1 against North Melbourne, we haven't conceded over 100 points, and that doesn't just happen. They deserve a lot of credit for a lot of the pressure that they're absorbing from week to week in a transitional phase for our club. The Bulldogs did miss some very gettable shots. Sorry, what was that?
I said with the injuries on top as well, when you consider, when Asava went down and Harrison Ram was out at the start of the year and Todd Marshall's been in and out, you would have, earlier in the year, if you'd said to me,
Bergman's been in and out.
Bergman really only came into form maybe 3 weeks ago. If at the start of the year you would have said we'd gone through this month of football with Aaliyah as really the only key recognised tool that was playing consistent footy, I would have been like, well, we're going to be in trouble against these 4 opponents, and we've lost the combined total, by a goal, right? What was it?
Perspective is an interesting thing in regards to this month as well, just in a general sense. Again, I think, perspectives have shifted throughout this nine weeks of football because we, initially saw the draw and the first 4 or 5 games and we go, oh, we got a soft draw and we could be 5-0 or whatnot, but that doesn't happen. We let ourselves down on a couple of glaring occasions, and then all of a sudden, this month of football that we've just endured, the forecasts were dire, to say the least, and how much are Port Adelaide going to lose by in each of these games. And in actual fact, we come out the other end looking quite good in comparison to those expectations. Frustrated and frustrating from a fan point of view and a Port Adelaide point of view, just the way that we've now, out on the back of it, we're unhappy that we've lost these games because we've given ourselves chances to win these games. When a month ago, Hawthorn, Geelong, Adelaide, even though Adelaide have started the season pretty averagely, and Western Bulldogs, they're all being pegged as at least 5-goal losses, if in some occasions more than that. And we've really changed that perspective and changed the narrative on ourselves in season. And I mean, we all had hope that we would give a good account of ourselves, but I don't think we expected what we've seen. And if we just kind of zoom out a little bit, it's a credit to us, the Port Adelaide Football Club, for how we've handled ourselves over the last month. And we come away with it going, we just need a few things to click, maybe a few people to come back, which isn't going to happen yet. We have to keep waiting for the real good pieces to come back, that will also be short of a gallop. But yeah, it is that other side to the coin. It's so desperately heartbreaking to lose in the fashion that we have. But to give ourselves a sniff in 3 of those games, and to lose it by under a kick, but then not only that, but to absolutely fucking thump Geelong on Anzac Day. And it was a thumping. The score doesn't reflect that entirely, but it was a thumping. We were there. We all saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to take the positives with what was unfortunately another negative. We've come a long way in the last month, and you just hope that we can continue in that fashion and bounce back in a way, because I think overall, we kind of regressed to an extent in a big portion of the game against the Western Bulldogs, and we did regress into some bad habits at stages where we were under immense pressure, and that wasn't the first time that's happened this season. Some Hinkley-esque type disposal or decision making under pressure, it kind of crept back in, and I guess that's maybe just a bit realistic. Is that's kind of old habits die hard, ultimately. But for me personally, it's got me looking forward to the next month of football, probably more so than it would have had we lost by the margins that some punters and pundits in a professional sense were pegging early doors.
Yeah. Wanted to bring up one more thing before we get to the segments and whatnot. A percentage of 109.5 is, I believe, just having a brief look at the ladder here, 7th best in the competition. So it's often said in AFL terms that percentage is a good indicator of how you're traveling if you want to look at it outside of ladder position. Obviously, we're 14th on the ladder, and ladder position at the end of the year is ultimately the only thing that matters. And look, 14th, hashtag do it for Dougie. Doing well in that sense. And then if you look at the honourable loss column, then 109.5 is the 7th best. If the ladder was decided on percentage, we'd be in the top 7 right now. You can find your wins in both ways, whether it be for draft positioning or just the moral vibes of where the team's at. We've had years in the past where we've had a good win-loss record, but the percentages look decidedly average. and that's kind of borne out by the end of the year. And you can look at it this year and go, look, we're actually, the defense is holding up, and if we can get the attack going well, then who knows what could happen. But again, to shout out to Jack Traherne, NBA brain says we're in the position we want to be for Dougie and future draft prospects. So I hate having to think that way, but fucking Greg Swan, that motherfucker, has made me have to think about it every week. The AFL, love the club.
It does help
league.
ease the ease the burden
It does.
of loss.
Yeah, it's real back to what the Philadelphia 76ers like 10, 15 years ago with the trust the process stuff.
The process, yeah.
Trust the process. Oh, fuck me. I reckon it's about time we head towards the segments. But first of all, just a quick note, of course, get around the socials. If you're not already, if you're listening, I'm sure you are, but if you kind of listen to this and realize, I'm not following on Instagram or Facebook, Twitter, wherever it may be, the pages are growing quickly, particularly Facebook. Shout out to the trolls that like to get involved there. Appreciate the engagement. But yeah, if you're not following or subscribing in any of those areas, get around them, as well as whatever YouTube or whatever podcast feed that you utilize to listen or watch us. We appreciate you being here, of course. But, if you listen on Spotify, but you have a YouTube account, jump over there, give us a subscribe, give the videos a like there as well. It just helps. What we're trying to do is build the community and
drop a heart in the comments.
Yeah, heart. Got to do all the finger motions like all the fucking all the influencers do.
Yep.
Yeah. And drop your comments. I do enjoy the people and shout out to those that regularly tune in on YouTube, because they do regularly comment and give us their thoughts there, and we do appreciate that as well. So love all the support, and we want to continue growing it. It is, of course, a podcast. It is entirely built from at this point from word of mouth and the algorithms figuring out that we're there. So the more you like and subscribe and give us the follows and all those things in whatever area you are, that does help it grow in the algorithm as well. So thank you for everyone that's doing that. And look forward to keeping more and more people coming on board. Amy, I think that's about it for that. So we should get to the segments, which of course, first, as always, will be the Wilson Gray.
Down, Gray doing brilliantly, getting through to Monfries. That's Gray at his best.
Wilson kicks hard and kicks truly.
Alrighty, the Wilson Gray this week, and which Jamie will get to go first. But first of all, I will note that the wild Brumby Jones tackle on Ben Keys won the vote last week. 62% of the vote. So a close vote. I've been enjoying the last few weeks. There's been some good battles in the votes, but yeah, wild Brumby Jones. 62% of the vote over Jamie's nomination last week of the Jacob Ware second efforts, which was a very, very good one. I was really, really appreciative of the fact that a lot of people got around that one as well. But you get to go first this week, Jamie. What you got?
Well, Artie Jones for the Western Bulldogs was looking lively, particularly in that second half, and it was late in the third quarter after we had kept them to one behind. Artie Jones was looking like he was a certain score with a minute 20 left on the clock, and good old team man Willem Drew, WD28, swoops in and puts a tackle on to ensure that goes to a stoppage and does not score.
Doesn't take much when you're sort of half propelling yourself forward.
Pelly, Artie Jones, he does bust a couple. Didn't get brought high though.
Good tackle, Drew.
Incredible nomination from you. That was actually top of my list as well. I do have a few others, of course, but of course, a shout out to those that are new listening. Jamie and I don't discuss this. We take it in turns each week to who goes first. So we both have a list of our nominations. So Jamie's stolen my top one from my list, but
You're welcome.
I do have another one here. No, it's a good one. Look, we love Willem, WD28, and so when I keyed in on that one when I was watching the replay, I thought Jamie's going to have this in his list. Surely, it just depends where it's placed. So
deliberated over another one. So interested to see what yours is.
Yeah, we can do honorable mentions once I nominate mine, which I will nominate. There was a moment, I think a couple of minutes into the third quarter, There was an inbound kick like Buku Kamas was trying to pick off the corridor, and he actually had, I think it was Riley Sanders, pretty open there, but Zach Butters closed space very, very quickly to kind of spoil the ball and take away the opportunity for Riley Sanders to take the mark. It was just a great spoil. Good, just classic Butters, hard at the ball, and making what looked like a pretty regular inside kick and mark, anything but. So, yeah, nomination for Zach Butters, having just a classic Zach Butters attack the ball moment.
Crowd wanted a free. Caulfield was brilliant. Karmas, Butters, heart and soul into that, but he put it down and went down.
Lovely. Yeah, I mean, and Zach Butters did have, like, obviously, votes, etc., etc. Like, had some 1%ers or something in there as well. Just, was it an audition game? Was it not for Butters? Who knows? But he was doing all sorts. He was flying the flag for us, that's for sure, on the night. So, yeah, good one by you. My other one that I was deliberating over, a bit of a can't play five essence to it. First use of that term, and I'm sure you'll have a shout out coming for the goal of the week. But yeah, Logan Evans at the start of the fourth quarter, there's a ball on the halfback flank, and he scoops it up, whether it be one-hand or two-handed off the deck. He rides a tackle and then handballs it out to DBJ. I really like that. Again, that confidence in himself, backing himself to, scoop it up off the deck, which was nice and clean. Riding a tackle, I can't remember who the tackler was from the Western Bulldogs, and then, giving it off efficiently to DBJ. That was my honourable mention.
Yeah, I did note that one in my list as well. That was very smooth. In what was a hotly contested moment, very, very smooth from Logan Evans there. So yeah, he had a lot of good moments in this game. It's unfortunately just shaded by a lot of people are going to look to the turnovers, but very, very good game from him. But two very good nominations, of course. Before we get to the goal of the week, which is also has the same rules here, but I will obviously, we're recording Monday, the 11th of May. I always get the nominations in video form onto the Instagram stories the next evening. So if you're listening to this on Tuesday morning on the 12th, then check out the Instagram stories later on this evening around 6-7 p.m. The story 6-7 p.m. God damn it, David. Shout out to the kids out there listening to the podcast. We get the nominations up there, and then they're there for 24 hours for you to vote for which moment, both the Wilson Gray and the goal of the week that we're about to nominate as well. So, get around the Instagram for that. We do enjoy the fact that more and more people are getting around that and voting, and also giving us their nominations, which we'll give a shout out in a moment as we get to the goal of the week.
Monfries has kicked a goal. Unbelievable. Haven't seen anything like that. It's gone at right angle.
Flashpoint, Stevie Motlop, what a time! Oh! He is floating on air now!
Floating on air. I would have liked to. We've been so close to being teased with another moment like that over the last few weeks. For fuck's sake.
I feel that we're going to get one. Sorry to cut it. I feel that we're going to get one, and if it's at home, the stands are getting ripped down.
Yeah, we've been blessed with a few major ones in the last decade, whether it be, of course, Stevie Motlop or, of course, DBJ LA, which I like.
Yes. Oh boy,
what a moment! Goal of the week. Last week's winner was Berry Buries It. Of course, that should have been one of those moments. With the 68%, he got 68% of the vote over, which was Jamie's nomination, 68% of the vote over my nomination of Zach Butters' goal from the boundary in the back, later stages of the first half against the Crows last week. So, again, get around the Instagram stories for the nominations for this one this week. Shout out. So I am going first with this one this week, and I'm going to nominate Ewan McKinley's doesn't need a left foot goal in the second quarter there.
Wines, Berry, and here we go, McKinley. He wants to get on his right. He gets on his right, and he does it all right. Who needs a left? It's only for standing on.
Well, he didn't need a left, did he? Dwayne? He said, I'll show you. I heard what you said in the box. I don't need a left. But great goal on the boundary.
And a shout out to Shanna, who immediately messaged us. Jamie pointed it out to me. He noticed it first on the socials. So shout out to Shanna. I know you listen regularly, so we appreciate your support. Apologies if I mispronounced that, but she sent a message immediately and said, I needed to tell you guys, talk to you guys about the fact the Can't Play 5 member Ewan has kicked that goal. So, and she was nominating it.
What a goal.
I think, yeah, we were. And
our first fan nomination prior to the show.
One I absolutely concur with as well. I think when we saw it happen on the night, we both, I think I might have said to you, goal of the week nomination right away. I just knew that was going to be one of them because we saw it right in front of us as
Right in front of me! Right in front of me!
Was Ewan McKinlay, because we were right in front, for those listening, we were standing right in front of the scoreboard, so the angle that Ewan McKinlay's goal came through the post was just aimed directly at us, more or less. So we just had the perfect vantage point for seeing his sidestep, getting onto his right foot, and then obviously the commentary, watching it on replay and watching, listening to Dwayne Russell going he doesn't, because I'd seen the snippet online, but then watching the full replay, they'd just been talking about him not using his left foot before when he missed an opportunity for a kick, and then so the whole commentary moment had built up for a minute, and then when he kicks that goal, it's who needs a left? It's just for standing on. Just great Dwayne Russell stuff. He had some good Dwayne.
Sold a bit of candy too.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, no, that's the chef's kiss cherry on top of the whole thing, but and then just a fantastic finish as well. So yeah, kind of wax lyrical a little bit there, but Ewan McKinlay is of course my nomination there after all that.
Well, to continue the Can't Play 5 flavour of the evening, it's hard to go past, maybe due to the another Dwayneism on commentary, but yeah, it's Logan Evans from downtown kicking it like Tim Evans, as Dwayne Russell said. In the third quarter.
Hasn't kicked a goal all season, Logan Evans. Has he got this kick in him? Slams on the boot. Has he got the carry? He's kicked it. He's kicked it like Tim Evans. Logan Evans.
Didn't need to be that precise, and
just watch the shepherd on the line here by Vicentini, bro. Doesn't get much for it, but he's standing right there. That's all it took.
Yep. Good work, Sean.
Yeah, can't go past that. It's a moment. Obviously, there's a couple others. Pretty, short list this week in regards to some standouts for sure. I mentioned George kicking from 50 and backing himself. There was that one in about just under 9 minutes on the clock in the last quarter was when he kicked that one from 50. I think it was his longest kick of the night. Just do that. Do that every time. Yeah. But it was a huge goal because obviously by that stage there's a bit of tension, and he nailed it. Watkins' goal in the first quarter was also good from a team play point of view, but yeah. I can't remember who I said was slapping the base last week in the Can't Play 5, but I'm just going to say Logan Evans is doing it this week and nailed that goal. Great kick.
Yeah. And very, very good. Yeah. Dwayne was having fun with the commentary in the night. I think he had a sleeping dogs don't lie, like line about Josh Lai taking an intercept mark at one point.
Yeah, that's right. I was trying to remember one before we came on, and that was it. Yeah. Sleeping dogs don't lie. Jesus, Dwayne.
He had some good ones in the night, but I did really appreciate him. Back to your nomination there before we move on. Tim Evans probably doesn't get too many shout outs in AFL commentary these days. So a little moment for, if any fans. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the commentators, Actually, I think I was watching the replay. For some reason, I ended up seeing a bit of the Channel 7 kind of someone talking about it, and I can't remember, it was Bruce Abernathy saying, he might need another 1,000 goals to get to Tim Evans level, but good start or something like that. But yeah, again, a little educational moment for those. Might have been a few fans out there wondering what the hell Dwayne was talking about, and Googled Tim Evans and found out a bit of history about one of Port Adelaide's greatest ever forwards. Good commentary, 2 good commentary goals, 2 very, very good goals to throw into the nominations this week and see who wins. Because, well, you said there was a short list of great goals. I think those 2 are very, very good ones for the fans out there to pick between. So, get on the Instagram and have a vote. Vote, baby, vote. And speaking of votes, let's get to our Player of the Year votes. Now it's time for the CREEDCAST Player of the Year voting. Alrighty, of course, for the new listeners again, welcome, and thank you to the returning ones as well. Player of the Year votes, Jamie and I take it in turns each week as to who goes first nominating our votes, and we don't know who each one is nominating, so Jamie is going first this week. Jamie, who are your best on field this week?
Thank you, Dave. My number 1 vote, continuing on even further with the can't play 5 notion, and again, like I said last week, perhaps we should just scrap it all together, because for a bunch of blokes who can't play football, they tend to be doing enough or a lot right. But I've actually got Jace Burgoyne, which may be a surprise, but I think he's flying under the radar. 21 disposals on the night, 10 of which were contested. He also had 8 ground ball gets, which I believe is numero uno for Port Adelaide. It is. He went at 76% disposal efficiency, which I didn't actually have written down here in my notes. 6 marks, 2 score launches in his 4 score involvements, 5 clearances too. So obviously becoming a bit more comfortable in a stoppage setting. 14 pressure acts, 5 tackles, which Dave's big on Jace Burgoyne's tackling. And he had 3 1%ers. Just a stat line that, again, under the radar. Just going about his business quietly, even though we brought him up last week because of First Crack's identification of him being the number 1 kick to mark inside 50 player. Not sure if that stat still stands this week, but it was quite noteworthy last week. And I think early in the game, we were kind of commentating on his disposal, hoping for more marks inside 50. But picked off again. Second vote getter with the 2 votes from the Can't Play 5 is Logan Evans, the aforementioned. 22 disposals, 5 of those intercepts. He had 19 of his disposals were kicks, going at 86.4% disposal efficiency, 7 meters gained. Yes, that is right. 11 marks, 3 of those intercepts. He kicked that fantastic goal, which was just nominated in his 3 score involvements, 13 pressure acts, 3 tackles, and a couple of contested defensive one-on-one wins as well, 2 out of 2. 3 votes, same reasons as every week. Mitch Georgiadis, 8 shots on goal. If he converted, probably would have been higher up. But I think last week we both had him pegged at 1. For the 3 goals, 3 on the night, but I just feel 8 scoring shots. And I think we had less players at the top end this week than we did last week as well. So we got pushed down last week in the showdown because of that. But again, this week, 8 shots on goal from his 12 disposals. 5 of those were contested. To his 292 meters gain, probably all from goal kicking, but still looks good. 5 marks, obviously, and he had 1 other scoring involvement as well, George. So just dominating his position on the field. And there was some pretty damning vision in the aftermath of Bukakarmas. Pretty poor defensive efforts, just not really bodying up on Georgiadis. But yeah, that's the risk you take against George. 2 fast for the big guys and 2 strong for the medium guys. 4 votes for me goes Too Fast, Too Furious. That reminds me of a reel I saw today, but that's a total tangent and a half. Kane Farrell for 4 votes, 27 disposals, 6 of which were contested. He had 23 of his disposals were kicks, going at 81.5%. for just under 500 meters gain. Took 10 marks, a nice contested mark on a halfback flank. What would that have been? First or third quarter? I can't remember which one. 3 score involvements, 3 rebound 50s, and 3 tackles for Kane Farrell. I noticed he was the fan MVP, which I think is more a social media MVP these days. I don't think we actually vote on it anymore. But there you go. My obvious 5-vote getter and best on ground is Zach Butters, which I teased before. Shock horror, I know. Zach Butters being best on ground and remaining equal first for the AFL Coaches Association Award. 30 disposals, 9 of which were contested, 7 ground ball gets, which is second for Port. Just under 77% disposal efficiency, just under 530 meters gain. 7 marks, a goal assist, 7 score involvements, 5 clearances, 4 inside 50s, 21 pressure acts, 5 tackles, 4 1%ers, and a partridge in a pear tree. Over to you, Dave.
Well, it's happened, Jamie. I don't know.
Well, boy, howdy.
We have Yahtzee.
Yahtzee, baby. Nice.
It's funny.
Wow.
When you had Burgoyne at 1 and you were like, this might be a surprise, I kind of
we're on.
Raised. I was
like, yes.
And then when you had Evans at 2, I was like, we're on here.
Yeah.
I teased Sweet when I was dicing with my. So of course, Yahtzee obviously means my votes. Jamie and I often have the same mix of players sometimes, but often the order can be changed. Sometimes there'll be a player different at the 1 and 2 spots. Sometimes we'll reward different things. But a Yahtzee with us having the exact same players in the exact same vote spots. I don't think it's happened since 2024. I don't think we had one last year. So I think it's been a while since we had
stretching my memory. Yeah, definitely came close, as you just mentioned. And I think there was one time in particular this year I was like, we're on here, and then rug pull. But nice.
Did a little you and McKinley fucking sell candy on you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get up and about. So you and McKinley can't play 5. 4 out of those 5 players drew accolades from us this evening. So there you go.
Exactly.
But that's awesome. Who else did I have in consideration?
Josh Lai I thought about. Jordan Sweet.
For the 1 vote spots. Yeah,
that was where it was at. It wasn't moving him up too much. Even Aaliyah I thought about but I was just like,
I did consider Aaliyah as well.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of things right. It's just like he's having some, again, what I think are just maybe a little bit of just overload kind of moments for him. But I still considered him, particularly in the 1 spot.
He's the 6th man this week.
Yeah, like you said, it was a tough week for votes because there wasn't too many standouts, so to speak. Even Butters with his 30 disposals, he had 20 in the first half, so you kind of thought he was on for a bigger game than he ended up with. He probably quietened off. He still had his moments in the second half, but he only had 10 disposals in the second half. It still goes to show that Jason Horne-Francis has his. Jason Horne-Francis, you could have made a case for a 1 vote if you wanted to with some of the stat metrics. He led or close to led some. Disposal efficiency very good, but with 18 disposals, you want Jason Horne-Francis. 18 disposal Jason Horne-Francis games usually end up with a couple of goals as well because he spent time.
I was going to say a couple of goals, he'd be in there.
Yeah. So it was a tough one, but ultimately, we ended up with the Yahtzee. So fucking like small wins.
Get
out of
that
the
up,
game. All right, as we close off here, we look forward to this coming week, which is you don't get many tougher tests, and it's not a line you would have said too much about the Gold Coast over the journey, but in the last couple of years, it has become particularly true that the Gold Coast are a tougher team to play, and even more so this year, or in the last few years, playing the Gold Coast in Darwin is a game that no team other than the Gold Coast has ever won. So that's what we have to face us at 7:40 p.m. Adelaide time on Friday night for a third Friday night game in a row. So very, very good. I'm actually going to miss watching it live because I'm going to be at the Adelaide United final. So
Hey,
I'll certainly be
nice.
keeping an eye on it. Yeah. No, of course, Jamie and I both, and then with the clear Liverpool tangents we go on at times, we both do love our football. So I grabbed a ticket to pop down after work and just catch the game. I just grabbed a standing room ticket. I just want to be in there and hopefully see Adelaide United progress forward in the finals. But we're playing 7:40 p.m. against the Gold Coast, and of course we kind of touched on it earlier. But for the first time in a few weeks, we're actually going to have a few major forced changes. Of course, Josh Lai is out with concussion, and Miles Bergman is a TBC on the injury list, but obviously going to be out for a while because he needs surgery on a ligament injury in his toe, which is someone who's actually I've had reconstructions on my ankles, and I've had toe injuries. They had to, I can't remember if it was Mark Rashudo in commentary that made the point that toe injuries might sound weird, but they are, when you have an injury in your toe, they are the fucking most uncomfortable, painful thing. So I do feel for him, and obviously that's a big loss for us. But there is going to be some forced changes, and we haven't mentioned it. Well, we touched on it before, but the Port Adelaide have actually gone the real early call here, and already announced that we're going to have a debutant in Tom Anastasopoulos. I fucked that up. You all know what I mean. I know how to pronounce it.
Anastasopoulos.
I've just had 4 stouts, and I couldn't get through that. But thank you, Jamie. So we
put
know
it on a pedestal
already. Yeah, I am also not a paid commentator, so I'm not going to put too much pressure on myself to hit that name at 10:51 p.m. on a Monday after 4 stouts. But yeah, we know we've already got him in, so that does create that issue because there's already discussion around selections. So he's in. What other changes are we possibly making here, Jamie? Because that is a surprising one to me. As much as I'm happy for it for him, and he's been in the system for 3-4 years. He's deserving of the opportunity after some great performances, but it's not one I was expecting. So where do you think the other changes are coming from this week?
Oh, Dave. Yeah, this has definitely thrown a spanner in the works in regards to selection chat. I've seen a few different things. Some I like, some I don't like. But there's the obvious battle of Geelong, Gold Coast's tall forward line. However, it's in Darwin. So that immediately has me thinking either Todd straight back in or Asava to give Alir that other key position foil. But neither of them really did all that much against Central Districts on the weekend. So it would really be a structural selection if that were to be the case. Because, we've lost 2 defenders, but I think we're probably not going to be adding any others because, Jez McLennan is not AFL listed, for example. So it may be one of those tools.
Harrison Ram is out with an ankle injury again, apparently.
He is, which would be frustrating because I think he did it early in the game as well. So he's just come back from a syndesmosis. And for those who don't know what a syndesmosis is, it's a sprained ankle. So he just had surgery on a heavily sprained ankle and then injured his ankle on his return game, which I don't know if it's the same one, mind you, but it would be frustrating nonetheless. So, look, we may get a rejigging of the people. I've seen Richards floated as maybe playing more on a wing and maybe getting a Jacob Ware to assist back. Maybe, but without rambling on, so we've got Tommy Anastasopoulos coming in. Lorenz would surely have to be a look-in. And look, if we drop someone, I'm not sure who it would be. Yeah, I think Lorenz may come in for them, and I just want Asava to come back. It's a gut shot. I've got a king high at best. I'm just going to put in some extra chips and see if I can bluff you. Kind of cool. Like I said, structural more than anything because of Gold Coast's tall forwards, albeit the conditions.
Yeah. I think I'm right there with you with Asava. I think he's just got more of the understanding of the defensive craft and structure a little bit than a Todd Marshall will at this point. As much as I love Todd Marshall's game, his last full game, obviously Showdown aside, his game against Hawthorn was incredible. That's a while ago now. He's had injury and whatnot, gastro, and fallen out of form and favour a little bit. I'd like Asava in. If Asava's had a run to shake off the rust in the Sandville, even if he didn't look great, like we hope he can come in, and him and Alir played some pretty good football together last year, so we hope that can work. The interesting one, obviously, Anasta Sapola, fuck me, I'm not going to scrub that out, but anyway, moving forward, him coming in obviously is a foregone conclusion. So maybe with Lai and Bergman obviously going out, maybe if Asava comes in, Tommy A comes in, I'll just go with that. Maybe Watkins goes out for like a Lorenz or something like that. Like Watkins, I don't think he's one of those players that's coming in and performing a role and actually isn't deserving of being dropped. He's also not doing anything to say he absolutely doesn't. If you're going to do things, if you're going to do things for structure and getting guys in that you want to get both reward and try them out in different positions, then guys like Watkins are the ones that get dropped. So that might be that third one that you're looking for to maybe get dropped to come in. Obviously, that would be the one. Unless Aware is getting dropped as well. But as we discussed earlier, we maybe want to give him just ourselves. And look, I wouldn't be surprised. Like if he gets dropped, then I'm not going to complain too much. But I think Ware and McKinlay both certainly deserve to keep going for another week. McKinlay especially, Ware, I think, give him another week, see how it goes. So that's where I'd maybe go Watkins and then see what that mix looks like. I know there's been obviously Tommy Cochrane came back and kicked 5 goals in the Sandful. A lot of calls for him to come back in, but he's been out for a while, and maybe they're looking to give him another week down in the Sandful just to settle into his work and make sure he's got the tank back and all those things. And 5 goals is obviously great and very 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 tantalizing. Gets you.
And they were great, great goals too. Yeah. Particularly the one-handed pickup.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a very, very good highlights package.
It was. Just not to end on a bit of not a negative, but a theory. Perhaps a let's see what you've got at the top level, Tommy A type deal. You've been on the list for a long time now. If you're going to make it, this is where you're going to have to play your football. Wouldn't be the first time coaches, not even in just our football club, have given someone a taste, just to give them a taste to see what, where they need to get to and see how they adapt to that situation. Just something that I've had in my cerebellum since that announcement was made, because it did kind of come out of left field. He's just returned from concussion protocols. And he's got the 22 disposals and 3 goals won. So it's a great return game. And he's had some pretty consistent form, I would put it, in his 4 other games for the season. I think he's been going at a good disposal efficiency too. Just quickly looking at his stats before, which I know Chad Corns in his show for SNSA, that's one thing that he has been critical of. Anastasopoulos in the past is his disposal. So, if he's figured that out, then, maybe the coaches are, just, again, wanting to see how he adapts to top-level football.
Yeah. And we saw it last year when we saw Hugh Jackson come in, and we really enjoyed some of his performances. But then, at the end of the year, he's listed. So, these are opportunities when you're a whisper it into the mic, rebuilding side. You can do these things. So
ASMR.
Yeah. Subscribe to my Only Port fans and listen to more
rebuilding
of my ASMR. Hugh Jackson rebuilding. Greg Swan's a fucking cunt. All right.
All right. Let's wrap it up.
Thank you as always for listening. It has been some heartbreaking results, but there's been a lot to talk about through them, and I think we're both, despite the results, pretty positive about where we're kind of tracking at the moment. So it's good to join you all every week and go through the therapy review of them with you. So yeah, that's about it, Jamie. I'm keen to move on and look forward to this week, and we'll be back with you with our preview squad show on Thursday evening into Friday morning.
That's right. Thank you everyone for consuming our content. We love you all and enjoy the rest of your week. Until later on. See you later.
Canapé.